times you have to do is a TCLP test, if you're familiar with that, just to make sure that we don't create hazardous material because you start with sand and natural gas, but if there's certain pigments or certain elements inside your polymers that would adhere to dust and go in there, you could have that. And just John Deere, for example, we use John Deere, they had lead in their paint. So the lead comes onto the dust particle and end up in the thing. So that's the only time that the dust didn't pass the TCLP test. It's better to have one on file, right? That you know that you can then dump it in a regular trash can or industrial waste. So once and you open the hood, I'm gonna open it up. When the bed is cold, you can come close to it easy, and you see where your sand level is. So you always need to check if your sand level is about correct. There's a marker here again on the side of the wall. So that's roughly what the sand level is. It doesn't have to be a science, right? So it can be an inch below it, you know, it can be just right here.
And then how much lower is it? We're what, about an inch below that now?
But you're right now on, this is a good level. And so you could be an inch, even 2 inches below. If you go farther below, we have about 4 or 5 inches below is a thermocouple. It's our safety thermocouple. If that thermocouple gets too hot, it will shut the system down. And it will automatically get too hot if it's in the flame, right? If it's visible in the flame.
So this will sit just right.
So this will sink in there.
Okay.
So once this becomes fluidized, it becomes act like a liquid, although it is not a liquid, it is just sand. You cannot put your hand anymore in there because it will be 850 degrees. And that bucket, that thing will sink right in it. Anything that's heavier than liquid, a ball will stay on the surface of the bed with all your metal parts, you know, your screw elements, so they will sink right. And they're completely submerged in that sand. And because your sand is already at 850, you have an immediately gasification taking place instead of a melting. The key is always if they would load a basket now, try to load. First, it's not fluidizing now, it will not even sink. But if it's at 300 or so degrees, and then in a hurry they put it in there, and then the plastic will, the polymer will start melting, and will run down to the distributor and plug it up. So the key element is, we mentioned already a couple of times, don't put a basket in if you're not above 800 degrees Fahrenheit.
You gotta preheat.
You have to preheat it. You can always preheat it, you know, by the third shift if you're in a hurry for the second shift, you know, if something would need it.
Let me show you the auger he's talking about. No.
Okay, so you check your sand level. Then be careful because they're going to close the door.
Better, Chris.
A lot better.
So you close the door. I would always say check what your set point is. So you go here, your present value and your set point. Right now, for the A model, we were saying 850. That's what we mostly do, 850 Fahrenheit. So you check so nobody changed the set point because it's an old relay system, you know. And then the second set point is 25 degrees above the first set point. That is during the cycle, so the machine automatically will go for a higher set point for the first 20 minutes of the cycle. So if we all agree that that's the correct temperature, set point 850, then we're ready to start the machine. Everything is interlocked, so I cannot start the pilot burner if the fan is not running. So I run the fan first. Fan is running. You hear the blower coming on. Because it's the first time I started up. You see this light blinking? For 2 minutes it will go to a gas leaking test. For those who are familiar with the old gas trains, you have to have 2 normally closed electro valves in front of every burner mount. So as long as it's blinked, that means that the controller is testing these valves to make sure there is no gas leaking past the electro valves. So that takes about 2 minutes. And there is I can show you later inside, there is a little black box with a disc that turns, and you see it turning during the 2 minutes. You have to wait till that test, and you only have to do that when you start the fan. Once the fan is running and it passed the test, it's not going to test it anymore till you shut everything off. So it's a solid light, so I'm ready for the pilot burner. Push the pilot burner. The green light only comes on when it gives a return signal that the pilot burner is confirmed running. We had that this morning, those that saw it. If the microamp current doesn't go back to the pilot burner controller, it gives a failure light here. A red light, and you will have to reset it. And this morning we didn't have the correct gas and air settings, so therefore it always gave a failure till we adjusted the controllers. Only when the pilot burner is going, now I can turn the main burner on. This is blinking because it says, hey, you have not started the timer. But we're not going to start the cycle timer because we know the temperature, right? And now I need to wait a little bit to get the first time that bed to light. Because everything is cold and everything has a little moisture in that sand. It will take a while to light it the first time. The main thing that you need to remember, if you shut it down here now or here, you leave this in an on position. The moment the pilot burner comes on, this will come on. So some people leave it on and just control it to the pilot burner, because this will never let gas go to the bed till this is confirmed to be on. So right now it's a waiting time till the sand reaches 850 degrees. I think today it will probably take 2 hours, 2.5 hours, or a little more, because it has never been heated up, that sand. And that means, if I understand correctly, at 3:30 you guys leave. We'll run a load tomorrow morning. Any questions about this? I gave to John. Sorry.
What is that?
All right, very good question. Loaded shutdown. So once the bed is on temperature, we're gonna open the lid. Typically what I do, I turn the fluidization off. So I don't have that hot sand thing. I take my basket, bring it right on top of it. But a sand box, like you saw a minute ago too, the basket will not sink if you don't turn the fluidization on. So once the basket is on top and you're here, you turn the fluidization on, the basket will sink like a knife in the butter right to the bottom. You unhook the lifting bar, you take it out of the way, and you close the hood. And you start the cycle timer. That means now the machine knows you have put a loaded basket inside the unit. The reason that the machine wants to know if it's idling like now, if there's a basket in it, is that if anything goes wrong during cleaning of the polymer, it will put you in a loaded shutdown. A loaded shutdown is, I give an example. If somebody put too much polymer in that basket, in a bad case I say someone put a bucket of paint, uncured paint in there. As soon as it goes in that bed, that paint will gasify. The temperature is going to start climbing. The machine can control the natural gas, so it will start shutting down all the gas input to the bed. But so at that moment you have an auto-turn burn only of the organic material. What is in the perfect scenario, good case. So you really have a waste to energy system right here. But if the temperature keeps on rising because somebody put 20 pound or 30 pound of polymer in there, the machine said there is something wrong, and it will shut down the fluidization automatically. And it's like a campfire, right? If you throw 3 buckets of sand on top of the campfire, it's gonna smother everything out and everything is safe. But to prevent somebody to walk up here and to start it back on, because as soon as he starts the fluidization back on, he will have these trapped gases that are in the sand. They come to the surface, and you could have those, as soon as you start the pilot burner, you will have a sneeze. And people don't like sneezes, particularly not in any plant. So that's why we normally say for 10 hours this light will be on and you cannot restart it. Because something happened that should not have happened, and you need to.
What if that light comes on and the power gets cycled?
Tell me again.
What if
It should not come on. That's what the electrician told me. It cannot if the power will cycle, it should keep it in memory. So if you turn the power off and back on, you cannot restart. And you need to investigate why did it go in a loaded shutdown. The most typical reason it goes in a loaded shutdown, not because an operator put too much organic in there, is because the sand level was too low. You remember, I can show you here. See over here? That's that TC2 thermocouple. That's that thermocouple that sits close to the surface of the bed, right? So that's the first thermocouple that will see the high temperature because the flame is on the surface of the bed. So if people let the sand level go too low, automatically that thermocouple is or close to the surface or in the flame of the afterburner, and it will go way above 1,000 degrees. And it will shut the bed down because it should never be above 1,000 degrees. First, to protect your polymer, your tooling, and also for safety reasons. So that's the most common use of going in a loaded shutdown, that they let the sand level go too low and TC2 goes too high. And so then the electrician can come here, he can open up, he can see, you know, what is TC2, right? Because there is a smaller controller inside here that identifies TC2. The other reason that could happen for if the blower fails or you have a power failure in the beginning of your cycle, again, this will come on because it should never, anytime the blower, what we call the daisy chain safety, is all connected to the blower. If the blower for whatever reason goes out, or by temperature or by power, it goes in a loaded shutdown if the cycle timer is running. So key will be that you tell all the operators, if you put a load in, you have to start the cycle timer, because if not, this machine will not know if there is a basket in there or not. And it allows anybody to come by here and see over here how much longer does that load has to pump, because you can set that. This is at 90 minutes now, you know. You set that at 2 hours or whatever you do. And so anybody walks by here, this should be solid, and you can see how many more minutes is it to run before the load comes out.
You said this, when it comes on, it's for 10 hours, you said?
Yeah.
I guess that we have to use.
There's a key to override it. I have to check if the key hangs on here or not. That's the key that needs to go. That key needs to go to the supervisor, because if it has happened because of the sand level is too low, then you could make a decision that needs to be made on plant level. Am I going to override that 10-hour waiting period or not?
You said that would happen if you had a power outage too, right?
Yeah. Because anytime when this is thinking there's a machine there and the fluidization blower shuts down, it goes in a loaded shutdown. And the key will be, if the loaded shutdown happened, particularly in the first 15 minutes of the cycle, the first 10 minutes, there's a lot of gases trapped in the sand. And you need to be very careful to start it back up. If it happens after an hour in the cycle, there's probably no sand gases trapped in there. But if it happens at the beginning, so it's a company decision, do I gonna override the safety because I can wait 10 hours, or do I gonna wait 10 hours? So that's why this key needs to be put to whoever you decide the key to go to.
What is the equipment doing while we wait 10 hours? Is it cleaning itself or
No,
cycling?
it's like a sandbox. The only thing we'll be doing is the fan will be running because you won't let any gases that come out still evacuate. But it becomes like a sandbox like you saw this morning. It's just waiting really to cool down. And so when you reignite it after 10 hours, the sand there's a good chance it will not spontaneously ignite. And you don't have these hot gases coming out. Like if it's 850 and I shut down, I have a loaded shutdown in 5-10 minutes, so you have these gases trapped, they're all 850, right? So if you start the fluidization back up, all these 850 gases come out, and you turn that powder burner on, or there could be a hot area on the surface of the thing, it could spontaneously ignite itself.
Now the only time the loaded shutdown will come on is if your timer is on, right?
That's correct, because if not, the machine doesn't think there is anything in, then there is no danger neither, right?
So when that gets up to 850 and we're ready to put something down, it's pretty damn critical we start this. For
It's
safety.
important because if not, the machine doesn't know you have a load in there. And it helps you that you don't have to time, you know, how long is that load basket in there. Anybody can walk by here and just check, you know, when can I take it out. So it counts down, right, like your timer do.
That'll stop it at any time, right? Like when
You can
start
stop
that,
this
yeah,
at any time.
Stop this.
Yeah.
Can you open that at any time, or is there interlocks for the door?
You can open the hood anytime. If there's a flame on it, there is really no. Let me go check it now if I got. It is lit, but you can hardly see it. If I close it a little bit, you can see the. You see the. It will be more exciting when it gets power.
No. Let me just auger.
Very fine flame now, and later when I get to a little hotter,
I can't remember all this. So what's the deal with the auger again?
This handle pulls off when you got it on. You put that bucket they got over there under here, pull that out, and just turn it, and it augers the waste sand into the bucket.
Okay. So it's a slide gate,
Slide
and
gate,
a screw,
manual screw.
Okay, and that'll just pull the ash and the
Yep,
gunk out.
that's right.
Excellent.
that's the bottom of the bed, you see.
So where is this thermocouple at?
That's the one
Is
way.
that the
Let
one
me
you showed
close
me?
the hood a little bit, okay?
All right, so we're looking to see where this reads from, Daniel?
Yeah. What did you say that one was?
That's TC2. So you get TC1 at the bottom. Yeah. That's your safety. And the bottom one is your controller.
Okay.
And so it takes a while with this sand to get that heat from the top down to the bottom. And then but once there should be less than 10 degrees difference between the bottom and the top of the belt.
That one right there.
That's it, yeah.
Bottom right there. Can I open this?
Yes, you can open.
So that's the other one?
Yeah.
So which one's which?
I expect this to be TC2 and that's TC3. TC3 is this one right there. TC3 is the temperature in the duct. So in the exhaust here, not in the final duct. I need to go explain a minute on that side. I can explain that over here after a little bit.
What was that?
Yeah. So there's two places. The first is right here. We bring some cooling air in here to go into the cyclone box. And then there's you see a butterfly valve right against the box there? Yeah. Here we bring a second time cooling air in. And we measure the temperature there to verify if the system is running too hot. So our first control, and you don't have to do nothing about it, happens automatically. If TC3, and you saw that in here too, if it gets to 750, that means I have a big burn in my afterburner going. And so what it will do, it will automatically shut the gas off.
That's 3, right?
Yeah. So if this, see it's 750 is the set point. If it reaches 750, it says I have a good burn going, I don't need any natural gas to burn, I'm gonna burn only the polymer that you have. Until that temperature comes back down below 750, then the gas comes back onto helium. TC2 is 1,000 degrees because that's your safety set point in the bed.
Is that on the bottom?
That's the one on the top. You remember that one that is 4 or 5 inches off the top of the bed? So you normally never have to go in there. That's TC1. So we have, that is part of the control system of the how we keep on adjusting it, because you never know how many polymer you exact put in. Although we have limits of I will give you the amount of polymer, or theoretically. Every polymer has a little different BTU value, so therefore it's not that you a golden rule, but I will have you an amount of polymer that you can put in there. I did that in the writing in that manual that I gave to John. So that's an important key that we need to decide who to give it to. Once I'm finished running. I like to keep it till tomorrow when I'm finished with the thing, and then except if you have really an emergency that you need to keep on running, you know, I would just let it cool off. And then still after 10 hours I was going to train the operators what you do when you start it then up. What you really do is you open your hood a little bit, because now it has not run for 10 hours, right? And then you start the blower and you immediately shut it back off. You do a little toggling. And what you do is really you open the sand and you let it puff out a minute and you close it back up. And you do that 3-4 times and you'll see there's no smoke coming out anymore. Then it's safe to keep it on and then start the pilot burner. And then you start it back up. But if you would do that when you're 5 minutes in the cycle, you have a lot of uncontrolled gases coming out you don't want to. So that's how you start back up after a loaded shutdown.
Didn't you mention earlier about after we run a cycle and then say the next day you're going to do another one? And you said do a quick start on something to blow that dirt, that sand out of the trough. Just a quick burst.
Yeah, that's different. So now I'm talking about maintenance.
Right.
So it's a total different item. If 4 months from now, 6 months from now, you say now you saw small little bubbles, right? But you should, once at 850, you should see baseball bubbles over the whole surface of the bed. And the basket should sink very evenly down in there with all your screw segments and things. The key in your basket loading is to make sure you allow, like I call it a dishwash rack. If you put things flat, if you put your plates flat, you know, they don't gonna wash well, right? The same in here. If you put things horizontally, sand it cannot air bubble through it, right? So you try to put your stuff all on an angle or vertical. But still, if your basket would not sink in, you could take even an empty basket and you'd load it in, you know, and it sits there. That means you have a bad fluidization spot. Could have happened with polymer that went to the bottom, or it could have happened that some sand made it through the gravel, and you saw the gravel into the distributor tubes. Instead of having to empty the whole bed, the first thing you do is you take these caps out on the end, and I'll have to give you a special Allen wrench, you know, where take the distributor cap off, and then you can look into that pipe from over there without having to empty the bed. And if you see sand in there, you tell people to get out of the way, and you turn that blower on just for a second, and you blow that sand out.
You gotta have the exhaust fan running first, right?
Yeah, because if not, the blower will not run.
Yeah.
So that's good. You're getting good. You got it. I like it. No, you're right. That's that's the good thing. So, but by doing that, and you close the cap back up, and you see now if you have fluidization, you don't have to empty the bed. If there's still an area that doesn't fluidize good, then you have to empty the bed because somebody laid, you know, it could be polymer laying on the gravel, could be somebody, I got that plate here. I find it here, you know, when I came in here, if somebody drops that in the bed, right, if he opens the thing and he throws that in there. We had a customer one time on a bigger unit, and the 9-shift guy had to bring the garbage, you know, to the back container, and he was tired walking so far, so he threw it in the bed, so that was closer to the office. If you have metal there or you have aluminum cans, they will lay on the bottom and they will stop your fluidization. And if you have this a spot where it doesn't fluidize, the basket will not be able to sink. So if this would by accident end up in there under the basket, it lays on that gravel, and so the air cannot get through it. And so you get a pile of sand here, and that means everything above it will not fluidize, and so the basket will sit on there. So there could be a lot of different reasons that why suddenly you don't have good. So maintenance, I don't know if you all do a little maintenance. You empty your bucket, you check your sand level, and you see if you have bubbles everywhere. And if you have any doubt, take an empty basket and just lower it in. The basket should sink, you know, pretty easy to the bottom. If that doesn't happen, then there is an issue with the fluidization. And this could be an example, for example, if somebody threw that in there, and you're never going to find out until you empty it, right? Then you will be happy you have a small bed.
Gotta get a shop back out here. This says it's